Morning. I was asked to do it in English, which is good because my German is awful. But if you have any questions, if I'm too fast, just throw things, just get very annoyed. Not now, if that's too fast already. That sentence was unnecessary for you, sorry about that. But I only have half an hour, so I need to get going. I was asked to talk about the web, the mobile web, and nothing but the web. And that's what I want to do, because I've been a web developer for a long, long time. Like when browsers were really, really bad and computers had less memory and just one processor than my phones have now. And I loved it, because I came from radio. I came from radio and I knew what I say 70 people in my neighborhood are listening to, including my mom, and I put a lot of effort and work in, and I was just not convinced about it. And I remember when I did my A-levels in school, I had to go to the library and get the book to have the information in there, and everybody else got the book before me, so I had to wait for 2 weeks. And it was all feeling, we got these computers, these things are on demand, why don't we have something like that? And that to me was what the internet was. When the internet came out, I'm like, this is amazing. It's accessible information on demand. Like, I need to know something. Okay, let's find it on the internet. Of course, you have to check if it's true or not, but at the same time, you have all the information at your fingertip. You don't have to be part of an inner circle of people that have a certain device, that know something, that have the right time to get the book that they need. And it was a clear separation of concerns. That was the really ingenious thing about the internet, because we had computers before. We had I did interactive CD-ROMs with QuickTime VR and things like that. And then you're like, oh, you have a Mac, you can't play that. You have Linux, what the hell is that? You've got a Windows machine, yay, we all love that, except for the viruses. And we had basically the hardware, a PC, laptop, netbook, all the things that we had. Then on top of that, we had the software, which was the operating system, Windows, desktop programs, Word, like Excel, Outlook, all the really cool things that we had. And then there was this browser thing. And Firefox, or if you're into other browsers, you can use them as well. It's not going to have as much fun, but it's going to be good. And then we had the internet, and that was basically data services, websites, music, movies, kittens, games, everything that you wanted to have. And it was all separated. And all of it was interchangeable. Like, you didn't need to have a certain PC in a certain configuration at a certain amount of time. All you needed was something that connected over HTTP and got an IP number and then got data back HTML and had something on it that understood HTML. That could be a text browser, that could be a converter to convert into PDF, whatever you wanted to do with it. And it was, use what you have. Like, no, I didn't have to ask you to download a certain browser to see my website. If I did that, I was stupid. And that's why we have these websites now that don't allow us to upgrade to the newest Internet Explorer, because they were written for Internet Explorer 6. And people cannot do anything about it anymore. So it was wonderful, because I just basically published and people consumed. And it did look different from person to person, but as long as it was readable and usable, I didn't care. Project managers did. They're like, why is that pixel 5 pixels off between those two browsers? Because you care about this. End users want to buy things cheaper. They want to read things. They want to have their problems solved. And it was beautiful. It was just beautiful. It was easy. It was cool. It was like this chaos of things that was wonderful in open technologies. And when I needed to learn about them, I learned from them from the internet. There weren't any courses. There weren't any books I could buy. I wrote a few of them and made money with that. That was cool, so right time, right moment, I guess. But it was just wonderful. Yeah, good thing if you want to advertise something, put a Red Hat kit there. That's always a great idea. My parents didn't do that. That's why they don't have any money now. They should have done that with me. And then the end of separation came, and that was the mobile evolution. Out of a sudden, smartphone, iPhone, this is the thing you need. And everything was the same thing. The hardware, the software, the operating system, and the internet was in one device. And it wasn't interchangeable anymore. You couldn't even interchange the battery if it was empty, because that was sealed in and fixed. And it was kind of weird for us, but for end users, they loved it, because oh, it just works. And if it doesn't work, then I go to a genius, and if he has time for me in 3 weeks' time, then he will fix it for me without any problem whatsoever, or sell me a new one. So this separation went away, and we had a problem with that. And my biggest problem with that still is, is that the high-end devices that we have now are something for rich people. It's not that you need the iPhone 5 when you had the iPhone 4S that was just 2 months old. You just wanted to make sure that you get the cool new one because you're a rich person. And you get these spam mails telling you you want an expensive smartphone. They don't even define it any longer. They're like, I know what you're craving. You want to have an expensive smartphone and be one of the cool kids. And that was one of the talks yesterday as well. Like, my smartphone house now I can unlock my house with my iPhone. If you can afford a house, and if you can afford the iPhone, I can unlock my car with my phone. Great. So if I steal your phone, I have your car. Awesome. Like, it's just bizarre that everything becomes one thing. This is the world and the connected devices on the world. World Wide Web? Not really. There's so many black spots, even in the middle of America. You know, no connected devices there, no good connectivity, cables in the ground, like internet connectivity like you get in Germany. It's just awful. And apps are better than the web. That was the big thing that came with smartphones. Like, oh, websites are boring now. You have to have an app. Everything needs to become an app. And we freaked out as web developers. We're like, oh, we need to make apps now. Apps are the thing. Like, let's take the technologies that we have and build apps. HTML5 is now for apps. And then we build things like that. That's the Frankfurt Airport app. I was there the other day. And the connectivity was these, I don't name the provider now, but I bought a SIM card here, which gives me 20 megabyte a day. Great, awesome. So I loaded this app just in my browser, in this case Chrome, funnily enough, and then I had the spinner for like 5 minutes, and it loaded every single image. Some of them had alternative text, not all of them. And it loaded on, and the spinner was still there, and then I had all the icons. And then I started clicking on them, and then I got the information that I could have gotten just from the very beginning as well. And you can see that this is a framework that was built in HTML5 when the iPhone 1 came out, because everything looks like iPhone 1, although it's my Nexus 5 Android device. And when something goes wrong, what do? We use the back button down there. If I put the back button down there, I went back to the last website and the app was gone, and I had to get the whole loading of the thing again because it didn't crash anything either. So we just said, okay, the web is the iPhone 1, so make everything look like that. That's why we got the Zurück or the Fertig button up there instead of the buttons that I normally use. And we fixed that when Flash came out. We fixed that when Ajax came out, that people use the back button when something goes wrong, so intercept the back button and say, like, actually everything is fine. What can I help you with? What kind of information do you need? So we're that close with those technologies. We had like all these cool things in HTML5, and we're like, let's go and build those apps and do something with it. And we're getting there, and we're getting there, and it's offline functionality, and then like in the last moment, it basically goes back to like, ah. And the problem is we copy. Instead of making things with web technology, we copy native apps, because native apps is what everybody uses, and every startup needs to have an app, and that's how you make money. So there was this great comic the other day that shows you the dilemma of mobile apps development, which is develop a native app for each device and maintain several projects. So you have to go through the maze of iOS or Android, and then you can build this wonderful castle. Or you use a unique framework, PhoneGap, Adobe Air, Accelerator, and maintain only one project where you build this hut that everybody is not too happy with. And that is kind of a problem because it's an approach problem. You try to make the perfect solution everywhere, instead of just making a solution that solves the problem of the user. It's like getting a suit tailored. Yeah, it looks great on you, but you can't give it to your brother who's much shorter than you. You can do one that's almost the right size. You can buy one in the supermarket together. I buy a stupid example. Anyways, as a web developer, I felt left behind. I was like, oh my God, now it's over. Everybody's going to mobile space. I'm going to be homeless soon, and my father's going to be right that computers are never a good job. And it's going to be terrible. But as a web developer, I also learned patience. Because I saw many technologies come and go. I saw Flash. Oh, Flash, you do HTML. Look what I can do, like cool games that zoom and things, and like Flash tunnels that explain my brand for 16 minutes before you go to the website. And then I saw .NET, oh, everything is now built with that. And before I saw applets. And I saw all these technologies that always say, oh, the web is gone. like Second Life. Oh yeah, that's the future. You know, all these things that told me like I'm outdated. And I'm like, okay, let's wait. Because the web is a distributed system. You can't shut this thing down. Inviting everybody to use whatever they want to consume your product, good idea. So where's the apps rush? Does everybody need apps? Well, Comscore did a nice survey. The information is down there, and the slides are outlined later on as well. So the percent of smartphone users, 65% download 0 apps every month. Why is that? Because we have apps already. And the business model of apps is to make you addicted to one app. Otherwise, you don't make money. You have to keep people in your app and do everything in your app. Click things, like things, find friends, connect with people. Because it's a bit like the websites that used to say, like, please click my ads, please go there, but just now we put it inside an app. That's why every conference has an app. Why? Like, this could be a table on an HTML page with an app cache that actually goes offline on your device as well. We all have smartphones. Like, if you already need a smartphone, why do you do it with technology that is just there for the demand for now, and then you throw it away? And I found this really interesting because I thought people do a lot more with apps. But yeah, if you look at the winner apps that are out there, the biggest one is Facebook. And yeah, that's where I meet people. That's where I talk to people. Well, not really. That's why I impress people with pictures that I found on the internet that I upload and tell them it was my invention, and that's where people show up that they can put ice buckets on their heads and things like that. YouTube was the second one. I didn't think that people watched YouTube much on their phones because I don't like my battery life, but I might be old school that way, but I see people doing it all the time now. And Google Play, Google Search, Pandora, Google Maps, Instagram, Gmail, and so on and so forth. And things like the Weather Channel and things like Snapchat, Shazam, these are all the apps that people use, not the one app that you tell your clients that they want to use all the time. We're already busy. We have all these apps competing with our affections on our phones, and that's why we don't download new ones. The winners are those who engage. Facebook has 160 million total app users, 72% penetration, because this is where things happen. This is where you communicate. This is where you go. The other winners are those who own the platform. Google is the top mobile app publisher. Nobody ever talks about this. We talk about Google as the service provider and the hardware provider now and these kind of things, but they're also the biggest app publisher. And it's great. I love Android for its services. I love Android now telling me, oh, your bus is by the way 5 minutes late, so you don't need to run down to the street. But that means that everything that was innovative in Android sooner or later got into the platform. Which makes sense, because then it's on your phone already when you get it, when you buy it in the shop. But it also means that a lot of innovation from startups was taken by Google and then put it into other products. Like, I remember doing mashups about, points of interest in your area. And then out of a sudden, this became in Google Maps, because it's open ideas. So it's good, it's fine. But we don't talk about it. There's no games in the top 25, because games are a short-lived experience. People play games for a month or to a few weeks, then they get bored and do the next one. That's why you have to have Angry Birds Space, Angry Birds Football World Cup, Angry Birds so-and-so. People have to rebrand their things all the time to keep you going. And also, the other one is that there are only 10 million unique visitors. Not many people play games as much, unless you're Candy Crush, and that's just sad. Subscription works for entertainment. So Netflix is the top app that requires a subscription. Of course, not on mobile, but on tablet in this case. And that works as well. So thinking about that, Netflix didn't come up and say, we built the best app there. Netflix said, we're going to give you video on demand. Same as Spotify said, we're going to make music piracy unnecessary by making it so easy to listen to music for a cheap amount of money. That's the kind of business ideas I think people should have. So why go native? The things when I talk to people who are native developers and I ask them to do the web, they're like, the web is a fragmented mess. Like, oh my God, so many browsers, so many operating systems, so many ways to customize your browser. I never know what end users are seeing. Well, 682,000 devices of Android in the Comscore thing. This is how many devices they found. And how many devices are them of unique? That's what they look like. So what I found interesting there is we talk about the Nexus 5 as the cool Android thing, and the Samsung S3, Galaxy S3 is the one that sells that much. And these are massive numbers in between those two. So the cool things that we buy, that we think are great test platforms, are probably not the ones that the end users have out there. So 18,796 distinct Android devices. Talk about like trying to cater all of them in the same way. 43% Samsung. So when we talk about Android and Google, like, oh yeah, that's the only company that cares. Talk about Samsung a bit. Talk to those guys a bit. I'm speaking at their conference as well. I was very excited about this. Why go native? People don't want to upgrade browsers. My IT boss doesn't allow people to upgrade their Internet Explorer because the new ones have viruses and things like that. Well, 20.9% of these 600,000 devices were running on KitKat. All the others were running on older Android devices because a lot of providers hardwire the operating system to the cheap phone that you buy, and you cannot upgrade it any longer. In general, the take on how many people keep their operating system upgraded and actually upgrade every time it comes out is declining as well, which is kind of sad. How about iOS? Well, iOS 7, iOS 6 is a bit better, but because it's like if it's 3 versions, it's much easier to have less fragmentation. And also, people buy these phones and don't have a choice; they just get upgraded. But it all works, right? iOS is much, much better. This was a friend of mine from Mozilla as well. Rent 2 HD movies on an iPad without enough space. Downloads fail, no way to delete them. Storage full, iPad unusable. Had to revamp his whole iPad. No other way of doing it. Because we never go offline, right? Downloads never go wrong. Or maybe you uploaded your photos and you deleted them and out of a sudden they come up on the internet because the cloud is not as safe as you think it is. The other reason, I don't want to support hundreds of screen sizes. Like, what resolution do our end users have? Well, New Year's resolutions, or I don't know what you're talking about, because the screen, I have no idea. I switched this around, all of a sudden I got a new resolution. Well, these are the Android resolutions and the iOS screen sizes that you have to support. And the cool thing about me as a web developer, nothing new. I don't care. I've done that for years. I never knew that I can control the end user and tell them how big their screen is. And we cannot do that on Android either. And it will get worse before it gets better. Because I mean, we talked about the last few days, like, oh, wearables, yay, best new thing. Like, I can do everything on my fridge, and my car tire is going to talk to my trousers, and all these things. It's like, the screen size is not necessary any longer. You cannot expect a certain browser. You cannot expect a certain thing. And it's going to be fun. I just wait for things to become emotional. You know, when we want to talk to our Internet of Things, they should also have emotions. And then you go online and you browse for jeans, and then your trousers tweet you like, is there something you want to tell me? Like, am I not good enough for you anymore? What can I do? Like, you didn't wash me for the last 3 weeks. Should I tweet about that? So what now? What do we do? What's going on here? Like, oh my God, I just told you that everything is fragmented and everything is broken. What can we do about this? Embrace the chaos. Just don't think you can control things. You can't. You never could. And that's the cool thing about the web. It's like, it's the choice of the user what to do with your product. Like it, not like it, consume it, convert it, translate it. That's the cool thing on the web. I go to a website that I don't know, I highlight it, I translate it into a language I know, great. If the app is not available in my language, I don't use it. In the end, the data wins out. What information is there? What kind of services that you provide, like Google does for me, is the ones that get the most users. So think about not building an app. Think about building a business. Think about solving a real problem. And there's a few ones out there that did that. This was in Sweden, where I live half of my time right now, and this was like a flea market. And it says like, okay, pay with Swish. Swish is basically a thing that you can put in your iPhone, you can get credit cards. Out of a sudden, everybody can take credit card payments without having to ask their bank to get a reader from them, set up a dedicated line to the bank, and get like 20% of each transaction paid for it. That's the kind of thing that mobile is good for. Turn your mobile phone into something different rather than just put something on your mobile phone and hope people look at it for the whole day. Think offline first. There's a great talk by Alex Fayeke called Offline First, and I gave a few talks about this as well. We're not in this beautiful world where we say like, Siri, show me a 3D information of something. We're always offline. We're always in a train or in a lift, or there's a connectivity problems. This future of like being connected all the time is not going to happen because physics is against us. Like just here, your mobile phone's disconnecting with that thing and having bad sound in the other room is one of those indicators. There will always be problems with connectivity. So make your app work offline first and then go from that. Put as much as you can on those devices because they have big memory, they have a good processor, and your end users deserve not to see a spinner. Spinning things are basically, you lost. You made a big mistake here. Think it, build it, ship it, tweak it. Don't try to build the perfect thing. It's an ongoing thing. And this is where the web wins over native development. Because on the web, I can just give you something new, and you don't need to know that it's new. On a native platform, I have to ask you to download the new version of your application, which is always like a 20 megabyte chunk. Apps are just another form factor. Much like tablet, much like mobile was, much like touch is. That's just a form factor. What technology goes in, what technology comes out doesn't matter, as long as the end user gets the best result possible. So enabling more makers. This is Mozilla App Maker, and it's a drag and drop editor that actually allows you to build mobile apps in HTML5 and then send them out on all the different platforms. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. Google has something similar with the new native design that they're doing for Android L, and these are web components in Chrome. Drag and drop, build your app with that. Why not? We did it with websites. Of course, they were awful back then, but the technology has moved on, and you didn't need to write code from the start for an app every single time. Growth happens outside the US. We always look at the Silicon Valley, oh, they're so innovative and they're amazing. Some politicians even say they know more about security than we do. But if you look at the facts, 90% of the European population aged 16 to 74 has never used a computer. Never. And they're going to probably get the first thing as a mobile phone. And that's something to think about. And if we can support the ones with a computer and these guys on a mobile phone, why not? They're not going to get an iPhone. They're going to get something cheap in the supermarket as affordable. Native platforms are built to move fast and break often. The job about them is to be upgraded all the time, which is good because it means the technology is there, and it also means that users have to upgrade them all the time, which is annoying. The web is built to last. Paul Backhaus from Google said this the other day. If you build a web app today, it will run in browsers 10 years from now. Good luck trying the same with your favorite mobile OS, excluding Firefox OS, which was nice to hear. With that, I'm going to more or less conclude, because I'm going to talk about Firefox OS in the next talk here. And I don't want to advertise it to you. I don't need to, because it's just the web on a mobile phone. When I talked about earlier that we have gaps in the world, this is where Firefox OS has been shipped. And a lot of them in Europe, but we covered all of South America, which was uncovered before. And this year, we're actually doing India and Africa and all the other places that you're thinking about. In France, you can now buy a supermarket phone for, I think, 70 euro, unlocked, put any SIM card in, go be happy, be online. When the iPhone came out, Steve Jobs said that he wants everybody to be connected and everybody have a little magic in their life. And then it became really expensive out of a sudden. And you're like, oh, well, magic is only for rich people. And last week, we announced with a partner this thing. It looks a bit like an iPhone. I hope they don't get sued. It has all the functionality of the iPhone 1. It actually has the specifications of the iPhone, more or less. 1 gigahertz processor, all the things that you need, megapixel cameras. And the price point, 29 euro, without any contract, without anything else like that. You go into a shop, you pay this, you go out there, and you have your phone. And this is what I'm aiming for right now. So low RAM, slow machines, but it's the web. I'm not scared. I don't expect technology to work. I expect things to break. But I expect users to have connectivity. And this is something to think about. It's not about you force-feeding people new technology, new environments, your app. You're there for the needs of your end users. And your end users are everywhere in the world with hardware you can't control. And that's cool, because it frees me of any obligations. Like, I don't know what you use. Good. Let my technology cater to you. And that's what I want you to think about. So thanks very much.